And it ended up on the console.
I say, I know where that's going.
It went right over in there.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, we just had to shut the session down
This
and
is
rip
great.
the board apart and clean everything as quick as we could. It was Coca-Cola, you know. It's not
Sticky,
good.
sticky,
Oh,
sticky.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a lot of sticky to it too, so we just had to take everything apart as fast as we could and wash everything. You can wash it in water, you just gotta wait for it to dry.
Yeah. Was Dickey at all sad about what
Well,
had
yeah,
happened?
he was not, you know,
Remorseful?
He was definitely,
The problem is,
That's half the story, right?
the cable.
well,
Well, you know,
that
the
flavor
first
that
thing
is
happened, I
short.
think somebody had coffee with
That's why.
sugar. And it
So
went
what I'm
over there,
doing
and so
is,
everybody was taking it apart.
make it a little
Dickey Betts walked
short.
in, and he's got a
Uh,
mixed drink, and he's leaning over the board looking, and then he spilled that.
you know, I didn't remember the
Yeah, it
coffee, but I
happened
think
twice.
you're right. I think you're exactly
And so he
right.
had to start all over again, yeah.
So that session ended.
So,
Liquid.
Yeah.
The evil. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, theoretically, you're not supposed to have it anywhere near
Right.
the console.
Is that where the title "Can't You Seek" came from?
No, it was different time. Different time. We didn't have any of that kind of accident with that session.
Yeah. What about you, Jim?
Well, I never really worked in the Westlake control room with the A people. My tenure was earlier than that. With the,
But you were still in.
yeah, I was
studio.
still down there. I mean, like
Yeah.
I recall Paul Buff and I installing an automation system on the API console.
But even recording. I
When
mean,
did
you
that
know,
happen?
just
That must have been really late '80s, I guess.
No, it
I
was
mean,
in
late
the
sev-
'70s.
late 70s,
But
I mean, yeah.
it was while I had the electroacoustics on Hull Street. It was before I moved to. So that was I moved
Must have been
to
the
Boulevard
70s,
on 79. So it was 77, 78.
Yeah,
I
somewhere
don't
around
remember
there.
using any automation, that must have been the very final days.
Last year or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the
I
things.
think
that-
the last Capricorn record that I can remember working on is the Two Guns album. Did you work on that?
No,
That must have been
I
Sam.
was gone already.
That was, I think that was the last record on Capricorn. So it,
And the last thing I did for Capricorn was,
the only reason I remember that is there's been a lot of Facebooking about that group lately.
yeah. And that was what, late 90s?
Late 70s.
Oh, late 70s. Well,
Yeah.
but then it
was
came back
only
in the
about-
90s.
you gotta
Right, right,
remember,
right.
It was only
I
about
just
one
got here
decade of this
before.
whole
Right.
thing.
69 to 79.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Before,
About
yeah.
10 good years, you know.
That's all you need.
I'll call you back.
I mean, a decade is a pretty long
that's more
time.
than the Beatles
to-
had.
Yeah, really, really.
It seems a lot longer than 10 years. 10 years is like that now.
And there was a lot going on in those 10 years, so,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I was only here for just right at 5 years, and it seems like it was 10.
So what period were you?
71 through late 75.
Okay.
We had, three different scenes, periods of this thing. We came here, Jim had his console he put together, these big knobs, Buck Rogers knobs.
It was
Stone
not
knob.
faders.
Those are the 610
It was you,
modules?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 3-inch RCA knobs.
Yeah.
And,
UREI or
and then there was the Terry Kane portion of the program,
God, I forgot
where it all
that.
looked like a spaceship in here.
We
It
used
was
to
like
call
a
it the
dome.
Golden Arches.
I was
Yeah.
trying to remember what you
And,
were saying in the third one.
I
I
guess
was trying to forget that.
First board after Jim's board was at MCI.
MCI,
Well, no,
which we heavily modified also.
Terry Kane built one. Remember that?
But did it ever work?
It did for a short period of time. It was in here for a couple. He built it down in the basement. He and his minions.
Yeah, I remember him working
And
on it.
it was about the size of the center set.
I remember that board.
I didn't think he ever installed it.
I thought he used that for his PA
He took it with him.
gigs.
Yeah, he took it with him.
Yeah.
But it was in
And then
for
the
a-
MCI,
And the
right?
MCI
Yeah.
was right.
And that wasn't here long.
Maybe a year, a little over a
Yeah.
year.
That was, I can remember it with what record I was working on at the time.
We did White Witch on that one.
That was the second Tucker album, The New Life, because I went to Sausalito to mix it, because the board was making all kind of noises. And
It was one of Harrison's first, and it showed the early symptoms.
It's
of being
e- I don't remember if it was the console or the tape machine. They were both brand new, but one of them was serial number 2.
That was the tape machine, I believe.
The tape machine, I
CNCI.
Yeah.
have fond memories of the tape machine. We worked on that first Marshall Tucker record, and that machine was notorious for spilling tape. And so we had been working hours and hours doing a Toy Caldwell solo on this thing. And so
Like
at the end of
5
the thing, I hit the rewind on the machine, and one reel went doing what it was supposed to do, and the other reel went to spilling tape. And we just panicked. We're picking up armloads of tape. It's all over this
Grabbing the
room.
reels.
And when it actually grabbed it, it stretched the tape.
Sure did.
And so we had to wind it by hand, got it back on there. And what do you know, there's a good 4 bars of the tape missing was Toy's solo that we've been working 2 days on together. So when we had to cut that out, we had to do everything with razor blades then, you know. And so
Go ahead.
when that machine left here, it had cowboy boot prints all over it. Most of them were mine.
Think of the movie Office Space in the prison.
There
Yeah,
used
that's
to
what
be
we
a
felt about that
There used
machine.
to be a piece of tape on the console right up there. It said, "You can't have your take and eat it too." And edit too. Can't have your take and edit too.
So Paul, you were here the 69, 79, the whole
The whole time.
the whole
Well,
time?
I was here a year before you.
I was in and out here, I wasn't legally here, but I was here. I wasn't under the employ of Capricorn Records.
Right. And Jim, you got here.
But I did all my
68?
work here, so.
68, April of 68.
And were you here through 79?
No, I was here through the middle of 71.
Okay.
The Terry Kane era, I think.
Yeah.
Right in there.
Yeah, I left. I didn't know he was coming, actually. And
Oh, that's
I
right,
may
I
be the
forgot.
only people.
Yeah.
I may be the only person who
I
knows
didn't
that.
either. Of course, I was out of the country.
What about recording stuff? I mean, not recording stuff, but I mean the band's recording stuff. I mean, what got a recollection of an Allman Brothers session, a Marshall Tucker session, or?
Gosh, they were all, yeah, we did them all.
Oh, I know, but like anything that that really stands out.
Not that I wanted to. Not that I want to retell.
The statute of limitations
Yeah.
never runs out.
That-
Well, for me,
The memories are not good ones, the ones that stick.
Yeah, well, that's true actually.
for me, back in the old control room, we did part of the Idlewild South record here. We cut, Tommy Dowd was producing and I was his engineer. And we cut Midnight Rider, Elizabeth Reed, Hoochie Coochie Man, and we cut Statesboro, but Statesboro was not included in the record, but I'm pretty certain that recording of Statesboro is the one that was later finished
Okay.
out. Do you have any?
Tommy Dowd would have done that criteria of his life.
Yeah, or I think
Or
Johnny
something.
did it. I think.
Well, he could have
I
too.
think, yeah.
It was done before I got here in '71.
Johnny Sandlin.
Yeah.
First Tommy Dowd thing, I believe, it might have
Oscar
been
Toney.
Oscar Toney.
Right,
Oscar
Oscar
Jr.
Toney Jr. In
Remember
fact, I've got a
him?
photograph from that session with Bowlegs Miller, all the Memphis horns sitting around here. And
Paul Eggs Miller.
do you know Bo?
No.
It's a great
It's
name.
a great day, right?
Don't get nicknames like that anymore.
Well, he was a great trumpet player. He played on all those Aretha Franklin sessions and all those
Wow.
sessions out of Stax and
Uh-huh.
over at High. And the baritone player was James Mitchell. He was Willie Mitchell's brother. And Joe Arnold was the tenor player. And we brought a tenor player,
I remember
Ken
that.
White,
I
that
remember
had
that
played
scene.
in my band.
So they played on Oscar's record
Yeah.
while they were here.
Yeah.
Were they out of Memphis? Is that what you said?
They were the Memphis.
So
they were
is
known
that
as the Memphis
Boo,
Horns.
Boo Mitchell's family?
Memphis Horns,
I remember them being.
I don't
out in
know
Memphis.
Boo, but it probably. I mean, it's
He's
Willie
an
Mitchell's-
engineer in Memphis now.
Yeah, he's probably Willie Mitchell's grandson
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
What was the black producer from from that era.
Swamp Dog.
Swamp
Yeah,
Dog.
Jerry Williams.
He's out in Los Angeles now.
Yeah.
We play Swamp Dog on our radio station a lot.
I
He's
have got a
actually got
story
some.
about
He's got some fun new stuff. His old stuff's awesome too.
When Tom Dowd came in, and us, we were all just little young kids, really, and like, wow, Tom Dowd's here, and he could tell we were a little in awe of him. He said, I always remember, he said, first of all, nobody's God here. And I said, something like, are you sure?
You checked your lineage.
Now, Paul, you came here as a member of Hourglass initially, didn't you?
Well, there was no more Hourglass, but Johnny Sandlin and Pete Carr and I were 3/5 of the band of Hourglass.
But they broke up.
And
Paul started out as a musician and then transitioned into recording.
oh yeah, and then Robert Pop was our bass player.
We initially had
Everybody
had a studio rhythm section
Called Macon.
Well,
Well,
they would call a lot of things.
we-
We didn't have a name.
Yeah, we didn't officially have a name, but we put out a 45 when
Pulley Bone.
the chicken.
Pulley Bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So
It was
we
called
were kind of modeling ourselves after Booker T and the MGs.
Right.
There was the house band at Stax, and so they had a record called Southern Fried. Phil said, "Let's do our version. We'll do one," and so we called it Pulley Bone.
Pete had this little guitar lick that sounded like a chicken.
Yeah.
We're gonna have that recording in the museum so people can listen to it.
Okay. I always like the
It's one
flip
of our
side better than
That's
Ripple
historical.
Route. We drank a lot of Ripple back then. It was something like 75 cents a gallon. It was really good stuff.
Mentioning Swamp Dog, I did a session with him. I can't remember who he was producing in here, which is fitting for the time, I suppose. Anyway, we had a 16-track machine at the time. Probably that MCI, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's the only one we ever had here.
Well, we had
No,
the
you had a
studio.
3M for
We
a
had
brief
3M.
period.
Was it a 16?
Well, yeah. We
Well,
had the
I
3M.
thought we went from
3M
the-
came with the API from Hidley.
Oh, okay, I thought the 3M was a 24 track.
No, it was 16.
All right.
Studer was the first
Take a note.
24. Oh, yeah. Well, that was 16 too, wasn't it? Studer.
So those are 2-inch tape
Yeah,
and
2-inch
16.
tape.
When did they go 24 here?
Well, we got the Studer, and was that Studer 24 or 16? I can't remember.
Or was that later on, like
Studer was 24 definitely.
Okay.
And I would have sworn the 3M was 24.
It wasn't. It was 16.
I remember I installed the Dolby units on that thing, and the Dolby units triggered off of the tally light, the red tally
The
light.
record lights,
So you had to run a wire from each light down to the unit. So when
Dolby
you
A
punched in,
units.
it kicked the Dolby in.
But Swamp Dog, we got well into the sessions, and he wanted to add another. He wanted to do another overdub, but we were out of tracks. We'd used them all. So he took me out in the hall and he offered me $5,000 if I could give him one more track.
That's a lot of money back then.
How'd you do it?
It couldn't be done.
Bump the hi-hat onto something.
If I could have done it, I would have. I
Bounce it
promise.
down.
You couldn't dump something down?
Well, we
Yeah.
didn't,
Do something extra?
we didn't have any kind of sync stuff at that time.
Yeah.
And honestly, it could have been done. We could have dumped something down,
Yeah.
Well, there were no tracks on the 16 track, so we had to mix to a 2-track and
Yeah.
lay back. And without sync, that would have been an interesting project to do. It could have been done, but it would have been some work. But honestly, what he wanted to add, I mean, the record was done.
Yeah.
He didn't need to add another track.
Need
So
another
I wouldn't-
tambourine
I
on
would-
it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have helped him with dripping water well or whatever. But that was, but he really worked me over on that. He wanted one more track.
He was one of my favorites.
So he thought money would do it.
Yeah.
If enough money, you can do anything, huh?
He started at $1,000, got it for $5 before it was over with. I said, I'm sorry, man, I can't do it. So, doesn't matter how much you offer me. It just
Well,
couldn't happen.
and the thing to think about when we were doing the Idlewild recording here, that was on 8 tracks. My entire
Scully
10 years,
8-track.
my entire 10 years
One,
here was on
what
8
was
Scully?
it?
tracks.
1 inch, yeah.
Yeah, 1-inch 8-track.
That was state of the art then.
Was.
That was
That's
it.
what
Well, that
Brown
moves
Sugar
so
was
fast.
recorded on Scully 8-track. And
But the number
That was
of
the
tracks
standard.
moved really fast in that period of time. We went from 8 to 16 to
The,
24 in
the
a couple of years.
whole evolution of recording from the time I started building that studio in 1968 to to the time I left here, 4 years later.
Yeah.
You know, from going to the time when there were no manufactured commercial console. You built the studio, or, I mean, you built a
Console,
board, or,
yeah.
or
Everybody-
hired somebody to do it. And then when I left, you know, the MCI, the manufactured console, and then a year later you got MCI, API. There's a
And Neve.
plethora of,
Yeah.
You know, Jim, when I first got here, we were out on the sidewalk and you talked about building the first console. Could you tell me that again a little more in depth, just as far as, you know, you got here in '68 and you, I mean, just from scratch, you built the console.
This is what everybody.
That's what everybody did, 'cause no one was
Yeah.
manufacturing them, right?
well, okay, so when I got here, I arrived in April. And
From
Is
Athens.
it 68? You come in 68?
yeah. Well, actually, Athens was home, but I got out of the Air Force in Biloxi, Mississippi,
Okay.
and came up here, and had thought we were going to use the Hamlin building on the corner down there, which was the building that Phil and Otis had bought, Redwall had bought, and when I got here, Phil said, "There's another building available. Look at it and see if you think it would make a better studio." And this building, which was the McCullough building, and they had been manufacturing office furniture in here.
What was your sound background though at the time? Like how
My sound? What did I do before? Well,
I mean, that you knew how to do this.
okay. Well, I'd been playing with electronics, you know, all my life. I learned to read. My uncle had been an electrical engineer at Georgia Tech, and I'd go to Grandma's house and take one of his textbooks home every time we went up there. That's the reason my mother said I couldn't read any better than I did, because all these difficult words.
Yeah, light reading.
And I was licensed as a ham radio operator in 1958. I think I was 14 years old. You know, I was just always doing that kind of stuff, and I had a band, and I built sound systems for them and this kind of thing. First year I was at the University of Georgia, I did a summer internship assisting their engineer in building a new radio studio for the radio, TV, film department. So I got to wire some patch bays and things like that, doing that, and
Got to, right.
Yay.
I met the patch
Right.
We've
you know,
all been there.
and I I would record my band in the TV studios there, and then as a graduate student, had a job, my really first paying sound engineer job in 1966. And it was a campus talent TV show that they hired students from a television station out of Texas, hired students from the University of Georgia to go and staff this thing. So I was the sound man on that. And let's see, so that's, but we
Yeah.
did a couple of recordings with the band, and we just, Phil and Otis and I just talked about building this recording studio.
How did you guys hook up?
Well, Phil was booking our band,
Okay.
and we were race relations pioneers in the day. We had a mixed band, and we played both sides of the track, Chitlin Circuit and the college thing too, and we were the backup band for very few of the acts that Phil booked carried a band. Although I would have to say the very highlight of my career was being Otis's band one night at the Atlanta Municipal Auditorium.
That sounds like a highlight.
It was.
Yeah.
And but we had talked about building a studio. Otis wanted his own space to work. I mean, his records were made at Stax, and the stuff he was producing was being made at Muscle Shoals. But I don't mean this as I have the greatest respect for Rick Hall, and this is, please don't misunderstand this, but if Rick did your session,
Rick did your session. Yeah.
Rick's imprint was on it, and Otis kind of wanted some freedom from that, and I think that was the motivation for, plus he'd like to work at home,
In
and
Rick's defense, he had a lot of hits. He knew what he was doing, but he had a definite.
It's a sound.
Yeah,
thing that he
Rick
could
paid
do.
me a real big compliment one time.
He was famous.
What's his name? Stroking.
Yeah. A lot of producers still are.
Clarence Carter.
Clarence Carter, he called me, wanted to come in here and cut an album. And I pulled a few, Johnny, always wanted to be a closed studio just for more than just Capricorn acts. So I raised some hell and I said, yeah, but man, I'm gonna get the engineer. That was one of my first bigger acts, So Clarence came in and we cut a whole album. And I didn't have any credits or nothing. It was just raw. When the record came out, man, I couldn't wait to rush down and buy my copy. Read my name on the back. I looked in the back of the album. It looked in the back of the album. It said recorded, Fame Studios, Muscle Shoals, Alabama, produced and engineered by Rick Hall. I know you couldn't find my name on there anywhere.
I got a session for Clarence in the old studio on Candy State.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the Stax stuff, the stuff that came out of Stax, I mean, we knew who they were,
Right.
but, I
It's
don't
not-
have Steve
nobody-
Cropper's name on it, or
Right.
Duck Dunn, or any of those guys,
Right.
And we had a hit on this thing. 60 Minute Man was a pretty good sized record
Yeah.
on this thing. And no Paul Hornsby on there.
And no points neither.
Oh, that was beside the point.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so kind of toiling in obscurity in
Yeah,
a
those
way.
were just
So-
the
I tell you
days.
what,
But
those points were hard to come by in those days.
Because one of my best
Read the
friends,
book.
Tom Dowd, he was one of the original players here with the Cowboy and did a lot of session work here. But in any case, he talks about these days, or the days, those days.
Mhm.
He said that they'll never return because
It couldn't happen.
it couldn't happen again. Maybe it could again here. I doubt it though. But in those days, it was a Capricorn Studio, and we just came in whenever somebody felt like doing something, loaded up some tape and did it. And it might take 1 or 2 hours, or it might take 12 to 14 hours, and nobody was keeping tabs on it. I mean, it was just.
You weren't being billed by the
No,
minute.
it's just, it was here for this place was here to be used by the musicians, and they did. And it was an atmosphere that I guess was really conducive to creativity in the studio, because you could come in and not worry about the hourly charge.
I was gonna say, if you have that freedom,
All right.
and you're not thinking about, having to go pay the meter.
And that's a two-edged sword,
Yeah,
obviously.
right, because then you can't get them out.
You can't get, you can spend a day and a half here sleeping on the floor for 4
Exactly.
hours.
Right.
That's one of the great things about this setup, though. All this stuff is paid for. We raise the money to pay for this, so we don't have capital. We have to cover debt service or anything on this.
Right.
That's why I said it could happen again, and that's similar sort of.
We got to pay somebody to manage it.
I was just gonna
but-
say, and you still have to pay the engineers, you still,
It was a
give
meager living.
That building,
It was then.
But seriously,
building
this
on
is
the
not
corner.
about making a profit. This is about making making a music recording and just a music city again.
Well, with the incubator, isn't that
The incubator
thoughts
is-
there, since it's gonna be 24/7?
The incubator was the original idea. Our president, that was what he wanted to establish downtown, was a place for musicians to be able to rehearse and collaborate 24/7. And the rest of this fell into place once this building became available. We were looking at a different building on 2nd Street to put that.
Okay.
And then this building came available to us, and we started putting these other pieces together, the museum. And the original plan for the studio was to just clean it up and let people bring their own equipment in, like Steve did a couple years ago, and record in here. And then people started telling us, you need to outfit it and make it into a full commercial recording studio, because people will come record here. And so our president listened to that, and he said, okay, we'll do it. And we saw these guys find us a board that anybody would record on, and that's what they brought us.
And it's a real good choice.
That's a beautiful board. I'd love to have
that
it
building
in
on
my
the
studio.
corner, was that what we call the Hamlin building?
Yeah, yeah.
Any band would come to town and they wanted to audition, they'd set up their gear in that building, and I guess Johnny Sandlin and I would, or
Somebody come in
whoever
and
else.
listen to them.
Oh, yeah, we'd go over and listen to them, you know. All we had, it was four steps
Well,
over
we're
there.
gonna have that once
That's-
again.
Yeah.
The
And,
Hamlin
uh,
building's been repurposed.
And if we liked them, we'd bring them over here and just, hey, let's cut something.
Right.
So,
And, we record a
Well,
few
Grant's is
things,
still
and
running,
yeah,
too.
if it
That
turned
was-
out good, we'd take it up and play it for Phil,
Obviously.
you know,
So-
and that was the chain of command.
Yeah.
As Rob noted, Grant's is still going too.
somebody asked
And
me
the Grants was
yesterday,
kinda like that too.
what
wasn't it?
was it that made Macon special? And I told her, I said, you know, if you brought a tape or a band to Macon, somebody was gonna listen to them. You know, and probably, just like Paul said, we'd say, well, let's go in the studio tomorrow afternoon and cut a demo. Let's see what we can do with y'all, you know? And it was the land of opportunity, and people came here from
The
everywhere.
thing about it is, there weren't nearly as many bands then
Yeah.
as there are now, or
Right.
musicians, so, I mean, God, you could never do that part of it
No.
like we did
No,
it
you
then.
hundreds
There
of
was only a handful of bands
Talk
here
about
and there,
everything
you know.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, I don't know if it's a challenge or or a purpose of bridging that history with future. You know?
That's what.
Yeah.
Because like you're trying to do
Yeah.
the same thing, really,
I mean-
but it is a different time, and
Right.
The whole project is summed up in one sentence. This is about leveraging Macon's music heritage to create Macon's music future. That's it in a nutshell. That's what we've said since the beginning of this. This is what this is about.
That could work.
Even down to the design of this console,
That's-
putting that DAW section in the middle.
Leveraging Macon's music heritage to create Macon's music future. So this isn't just about nostalgia. This is about creating opportunity.
right.
Land of opportunity, as you said, Jim.
Musical opportunity.
That's right.
It was the gold rush.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everywhere else sort of already had a structure in place.
Well, you have the Memphis thing,
Yeah.
Muscle Shoals. And
Yeah, well, Tom Dowd had the 5 M's, right?
Well,
Macon,
I
Memphis,
used,
Miami,
when I was here,
Manhattan,
I called it
Muscle
the
Shoals.
3 M's.
The three?
And Tommy
There you
got
go.
that from me.
He got it. You're the man.
I called it Macon, Memphis, and Muscle
There
Shoals.
you
Yeah,
go.
I never heard
There's a
that.
t-shirt with that on it now.
He added Miami and Manhattan to
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
But
I believe the triangle.
The original three.
it,
the
Yeah.
Macon,
it was a
Memphis,
triangle, you
Yeah.
know, and it was
Miami.
because, I mean, before we started recording here, Phil was managing the acts that were recording
it's,
in Muscle Shoals
Uh-huh.
and Stacks.
Yeah.
And they weren't real happy when, particularly Rick, when we built the studio. In fact, I was real disappointed. I mean, understand that Rick and Phil, you know, they were just buddies, you know, and Phil would go spend a weekend in Muscle Shoals and hang out with Rick. Rick would come to Macon and spend. So I'm down here working on the studio, and I've got it, you know, about to where we can hear some things in here and all.
Yeah.
And Rick is coming over to spend the weekend in Macon, and he and Phil are gonna do whatever. This was before we had a lake.
Yeah, it would have been.
And
Before the Allman Brothers and the lake.
and so I was just trying to get everything ready to show it to Phil.
Yeah.
I mean to Rick. Do you know that Rick would not come down here and see it?
That's what I
Competition.
That's what I heard, yeah. He didn't want to know about it.
Just denial about
Yeah.
it.
But he did sell Dwayne Allman's contract to Phil.
Yeah.
They got
Probably
his-
one of the largest
And
mistakes
see,
we
I don't think the Allman Brothers could ever have happened in Muscle Shoals.
Because Rick controlled it so much.
It was a
Oh, that's
controlled
true.
situation over there.
And he
Rick
was using
Rick-
grain for sessions.
Rick could go in and cut you a hit record. And granted, we cut a lot of records down here before we started getting hits, but
But that jam factor, he wouldn't